Pistons Live is presented by Cure Auto Insurance. The Pistons able to culminate what has been a historic season with a 133-120 win here in the season finale in Indianapolis. A lot of smiles, a lot of accomplishments, a lot of accolades individually, collectively. This will be a team that is remembered, and we'll find out obviously in a couple weeks or a couple months just how well they're going to be remembered. As George Blaha and Special K join the show here, guys, you can get emotional just thinking about this team. I know you've been doing this for 50 years. Special K, not far behind. You've seen a lot of basketball. When you look at the accomplishments of this team, George, it's like, what comes to mind for you right now?
Well, it makes you smile.
Yeah.
And early in the year, I could tell for sure what I felt last season even. These guys love playing for J.B. Bickerstaff.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this, they loved playing for Chuck Daly back in the day and appreciated playing for Larry Brown because they thought he was a genius, which he was and still is. But they love playing for JB.
Yeah.
He's a great guy and a heck of a basketball coach.
Yeah.
And when your coach pulls guys together and makes them all smile and compete and play for one another, great things can happen, and they already have.
Yeah.
I'd like to amend just one thing I said both in the pregame and during the game, because I don't want people to misconstrue me. When I talk about this season being maybe the best in Pistons history.
Sure.
Listen, I know the championships trump everything. I'm not comparing it to that. I'm comparing the regular season.
Yeah, I got you.
And the regular...
ESPN just said the Detroit Pistons are legitimate contenders after they got their 60th win of the season by blowing out the Indiana Pacers 133-121. And I need to stop you right there, ESPN. Because what you just watched was a regular season game against a Pacers team that had absolutely nothing to play for. And now you want to call the Pistons contenders? You want to compare them to the bad boys and the going-to-work era? Pump the brakes. Let me break this down for you because nobody else will. The first 2 minutes of this video tell you everything you need to know. The Pistons won their 60th game. 60 wins. That is incredible. That is a historic turnaround from 14 wins just 2 seasons ago. I am not taking that away from them. But listen to what the announcers are saying. They are already talking about legacies. They are talking about dynasties. They are comparing J.B. Bickerstaff to Chuck Daly and Larry Brown. One of them even said this might be the best regular season in Pistons history. Because of where they came from. Because of the 46-win improvement in 2 years. And I get it. I understand the emotion. I understand the story. But being happy about 60 wins and being a legit contender to win the Eastern Conference are two completely different things. The Pistons just beat the Pacers 133-121. That sounds dominant. But do you know who the Pacers are playing right now? Nobody. They are resting. They are getting ready for the play-in tournament. They did not care out this game. And the Pistons needed 35 assists and a perfect 11 for 11 shooting night from Paul Reed just to make it look easy. Paul Reed, a bench player, had the best shooting night of his entire career. That is not a sustainable playoff formula. That is luck meeting a disinterested defense. And here is my biggest problem with what ESPN is saying. They keep talking about how the Pistons have answered every challenge. How they have stared down adversity. How they have won games with 4, 5, 6 rotation players out. That is nice. That is a great regular season story. But the playoffs are different. In the playoffs, every team is healthy. Every team is focused. Every team has a game plan. And the Pistons have not proven anything in the playoffs yet. Not one thing. The announcers mentioned that the Pistons left Boston, New York, and Cleveland in the dust during the regular season. That is true. They had some big wins. But do you know what else is true? The playoffs are a 7-game series. And in a 7-game series, teams adjust. Teams learn. Teams take away what you do best. And the Pistons have a rookie head coach in J.B. Bickerstaff. A great coach. A great guy. But he has never won a playoff series as a head coach. Never. And now he is supposed to lead this young team through the Eastern Conference against teams that have been there before. Against teams that have finals experience? I am not buying it. Let me talk about Cade Cunningham because the announcers mention. Ed him too. They said the weight is off his shoulders. They said it was not as hard this season. That is because the Pistons added talent. That is because the East was weaker this year. That is not because Cade suddenly became a playoff killer. Cade is a star. He is going to be a superstar. But he has never played a single minute of playoff basketball in his life. And when he does, in 2 weeks, against a physical, aggressive, experienced defense, we are going to see what he is really made of. And I am not saying he will fail. I am saying we do not know. And calling a team contenders before they have won a single playoff game is insane. The announcers also talked about the Pistons' identity. They compared them to the bad boys and the going-to-work guys. Do you remember what those teams did? The bad boys won 2 championships. The going-to-work guys won 1 championship and went to 6 straight Eastern Conference Finals. What have these Pistons done? They won 60 games in the regular season. That is it. That is the whole resume. And the announcer even admitted it. He said, now comes the hard part, because if they really want to cement a legacy, they have got to take this thing a good long way. Exactly. So why are we calling them contenders now? Why are we talking about dynasties now? Let them win a playoff series first. Let them get to the conference finals. Then we can have this conversation. Until then, they are a great regular season team. Nothing more. And here is another T. Hing that nobody is talking about. The Pistons do not know who they are playing in the first round yet. It could be Orlando. It could be Philadelphia. It could be Charlotte. It could be Miami. And Miami, if you remember, came from nowhere to make the finals a couple years ago. Miami has Jimmy Butler. Miami has playoff experience. Miami has a coach who has been there before. And if the Pistons draw Miami in the first round, I am not sure they win that series. I am really not. Because Miami is going to make it ugly. Miami is going to make it slow. Miami is going to take Cade out of his rhythm and make someone else beat them. And who is that someone else? Jaden Ivey. Orza Thompson. Paul Reed. Paul Reed is not shooting 11 for 11 in the playoffs. That is not happening again. So, let me ask you a question. What happens in Game 1 of the playoffs when the threes are not falling? What happens when the Pacers or the Heat or whoever it is actually plays defense for 48 minutes? What happens when the referees swallow their whistles and the Pistons do not get 35 assists because every pass is contested? The announcers said the Pistons have answered every challenge. That is true. Every regular season challenge. But the playoffs are a different animal. The playoffs are a different beast. And the Pistons have not faced that beast yet. Not once. Not with this group. So here is what I want you to take away from this video. The Detroit Pistons are a fantastic story. They went from 14 wins to 6. 0 wins in 2 seasons. That is historic. That is incredible. That deserves all the praise in the world. But being a great regular season team does not make you a legit contender. The Cleveland Cavaliers won 60-plus games a few years ago. What happened to them in the playoffs? They got exposed. The Atlanta Hawks won 60 games a few years ago. What happened to them? They got exposed. The Utah Jazz won 60 games a few years ago. What happened to them? They got exposed. Regular season wins do not matter once the playoffs start. What matters is matchups. What matters is experience. What matters is having a closer who has done it before. The Pistons have none of those things. They have hope. They have youth. They have energy. And that is enough to win a first-round series against the right opponent. But that is not enough to be called a contender. That is not enough to be mentioned in the same sentence as the bad boys. That is not enough to make me believe they are coming out of the East. So, ESPN, I love the excitement. I love the story. But let us wait until they win a playoff game before we hand them the trophy. Let us wait until they beat someone who is actually trying. Let us wait until they prove it when it matters. Because right now, all they have proven is that they can beat a Pacers team that was already on vacation. And that is not a contender. That is a team with a nice record. Subscribe to the channel if you want real talk. Not the regular season hype. Not the emotional speeches. Just the truth about who can actually win when the lights are brightest. And comment below. Are the Pistons legit contenders, or is ESPN getting carried away by 60 wins? I read every single comment. Now let me know your thoughts and get ready for the playoffs.